Welcome to the business ethics course held on a windy and cold Saturday morning, and thanks for coming and registering with us. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alice Law. I'm today's MC, and today's course is a 3-hour course. So for those who are registered for CPD points for the Law Society, please do keep a strict discipline. I don't need to repeat the house rules of the Law Society. You will have to sign in and sign off. After completion of the course today, you will be given an attendance certificate which will be posted to you. And without further ado, maybe I should invite the chairman of the Hong Kong HKIIEL to come forth, Father Deignan, to say a few words of introduction. Father.
Maybe I should say a few words about ourselves. We're a group of volunteers, and we wish to, and we are concerned with the improvement of behavior between peoples. We started in 1997, and it was a group of educators who wanted to develop courses on basic human values. Then I want to really to acknowledge and be grateful to Sherman Yan and the ONC lawyers for their use of this premises this morning. And we also like to thank the support given to us by the Institute of Directors, and of course the Law Society for recognition for the CDP hours. So thank you, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the morning.
Thank you, Father. We are also grateful for the Association for International Business Ethics, and we would like to invite Father Stephan Rothlin, founder, chairman of the association, to say a few words before we begin, although we are a bit late. So, Father, you're given 2 minutes.
Very gracious. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored and pleased to say a few words as chairman of the Association of International Business Ethics. Exactly 10 years ago, we had the chance to organize a course on business ethics at Hotel Kommerad on the topic regaining trust. And I'm very, very pleased that our cooperation between HKIIEL and AIBE deepened, and I think we can much more forcefully, after the financial crisis, make a point for business ethics. And the point was not just have business ethics as an academic subject, but really look how it can be implemented, for instance, how to implement ethical codes. So thanks a lot, and I think we hope this today will give us a chance to further seek networks. I see also pleased to see many young people among us. You are the future. I hope to reach out to you to give this sense for values, honesty, integrity, and look what is how to implement business ethics. Thank you very much indeed.
Now is the input session. We have the honor to have our council member, Mr. Antonio Zhu, to talk about the importance of business and professional ethics.
Now today I'm going to talk about ethics, both professional and business ethics. Look at the back there, is a word called integrity. Now, a lot of company has this integrity as one of the core values of the company. So what is integrity? Now I look at the dictionary, and then according to Richard D. George, he said, integrity is an ethically charged term. It means living up to one's highest standards. These standards are self-imposed, and acting with integrity emphasizes the autonomy of the firm and of the top managers. It involves acting in accordance with moral norms willingly, knowingly, and purposely. And because one is in command of one's actions, it also requires one to make conscientious choices so that one's actions accord with one's principle. It requires courage to do the job. Now, another word that I would like to share with you is what is ethics. Now, you have heard about this word many times. What does it mean to you? In Chinese, called 道德. Now, what does it mean to you? Now, ethic is a word derived from Greek word ethos, E-T-H-O-S, meaning a set of guiding principles, standards or ideals that pervade an individual or group or community of people. Ethic is the code of principles and values that govern the behavior of the person with respect to what is right and what is wrong. Ethics sets standards as to what is good or bad in conduct and decision making. So in other words, ethics plays a very important role. Now I come to ethics and business. Have you ever heard of the word called a professional manager or professional business? Well, there is no such thing as professional manager, or there is a such thing as professional business. But there is a professional doctor, professional lawyer, professional accountant, professional teachers. Why? Have you ever thought of that? Why? Sometimes in the business world, profits means everything, right? But sometimes when you have set a high ethical standard for your company, it pays. Now some years ago, so in Hong Kong, a survey conducted by ICAC about the ethical standard in Hong Kong. 80% of the respondents who are senior business executives believe that Hong Kong will gain business advantage if they uphold a higher business ethical standard. And 95% of the respondents claim that they will be more likely to purchase from a company that has a higher company ethical standards. Now I'll give you one example. Remember, in 2003 there was a SARS, remember that? In Taiwan, at the same time, there were two department stores. Both of them are Japanese big department store. At that time, Mother's Day was coming. So that was a day very good for business. So two companies, one of them discovered that a staff has fever. Another company also discovered another staff has fever. Now what do? The management adopt a different way of doing it. One doesn't try to cover the case, say, well, this is just an ordinary staff having a fever. The other one immediately do something. They stop business for one day and clean the whole building. The other one doesn't do anything. So what will happen to both companies then? The one who has cleaned everything, when the Mother's Day comes, I think the public will have more confidence on that particular department store, because they really take into consideration of the life of their customer, right? So this is how ethics plays, if they have ethical standard. Another case is Johnson Tylenol. On one occasion they found that the drug has been tampered, but not in the manufacturer firm, but in the store. And Tylenol has immediately recalled all the drugs. It cost the company more than $100 million, but the public has faith in the company, and then they will buy the drugs. So that's how, when you take into the consideration of adhering to a high ethical standard, it pays. Now, if I may use this to draw, what is the minimum here? If I use a red one, this is the legal requirement. This is the minimum acceptable standard. If you set your standard, you can set a sky high. It depends on the way you look at it. Now you can set it here, and you can set it as high as this one. It's entirely up to you to set higher the standard. Now what I call this is a moral space. It enables you how to make your own decision here. Below that, when you set your minimum acceptable standard here, the likelihood that you will fall below this acceptable standard, and you know what will happen, then you will break the law, and then you will get yourself in trouble. So, the higher standard you set for yourself, the better you will become. Now, I will talk about ethics and professionals. Now, how many of you here are doctors or lawyers or accountants here? So first of all, you have your own code of conduct, right? You have professional conduct. The professional conduct governs your behavior. And then the requirement is much higher than what the law requires, right? Say for instance, in some profession, the members are not allowed to publicize their names in newspaper or so and so forth. But the law doesn't prohibit them from doing it. They can do it, right? But because, you know why? Because as economic development and technological development advances, people will entrust their life, right? Their life and property in you as a professional. So in other words, you want to win the trust, you have to set a high ethical standard. So in other words, if you set a high ethical professional standard here, it's entirely voluntary, it's a kind of self-discipline action. So if you set a high standard, the higher you set, you will become much better. Now, I would say, so when a hawker, say, may arbitrarily raise his price, or a tailor could be less bespoke than he should be, we may not be too concerned about that, right? But if a professional asks for more money than he should get, if he neglects what he should be his rightful duty, the community turns on him as if he had committed a murder. So I think, so when we will mistake by professional with such severity because they are often charged with looking after our properties and our assets. Now, professional ethics is something rather abstract. Now, I attempt to define the different level as I see it. The basic level is one where the professional obey the law. Now, this is only the minimum acceptable level. The other level, high level, is where the professional take it on themselves to discharge their rightful duty and do not need any nothing. In other words, they can do them, they are exercise a high degree of self-discipline. What I see as the top level of professional ethics is where the professional go beyond the core of duty and contribute what he can do to the community. If there, we see the true professional. In other words, there are 3 levels. And then I can see there are also 5 elements. What are these 5 elements? Now these 5 elements are a professional knowledge. The professional must possess a body of special professional knowledge, a strong sense of duty, sincerity in service, self-discipline, and a selfless spirit. Lacking any one of these elements could make the one professional less complete. So in other words, there are 3 levels and 5 elements. They complement with one another. And if you miss one of them, you cannot call yourselves true professionals. Now, this is how I see it. You may not agree with me, but this is how I see it. Now, furthermore, in many professional trade unions are set up, they set up this sort of regulation and exercise self-discipline. So in other words, if you follow the codes and exercise a high degree of self-discipline, not only you can maintain the reputation of that professional, but at the same time, you can set a good example to others. Okay, finally, another 5 minutes I will talk about the professional ethics in business. Now when you are in the business, you have 3 decisions, 3 choices to make. As a human being, as a professional, and then when there is a conflict, you have to solve the conflict here. Say for instance, your friend asks you, you ask a friend, say, this is a drug for you. Then what will you do? Okay, thank you very much. Then you will take it or not take it, it doesn't matter. But when a doctor says to you, this is a drug for you, even though the same drug, then you take it more seriously, right? Now think about that, what will happen if you come across this sort of situation. When a drug is very good to the patient, but it's not allowed here in Hong Kong, say for instance, you are a doctor, what will you do then? Will you prescribe the drug to that patient? Think about that. So you come across as a human being, you should prescribe the drug to that particular patient. But as a professional in Hong Kong, say for instance, The medical association does not allow you to prescribe that drug for the patient. What do you do? So there comes a conflict. As a professional, then you have to resolve that conflict. So you think about that. So in other words, as a professional, when you go up to the ladder, you will become also a manager. So, as I said earlier, there is no such thing as professional manager. What will you do there? So when you go up to the ladder, I think as a manager, there are two things that I would advise you to do in order to maintain. First, training of staff. You should train staff. This is a very good investment. And second, in the company, to set up a code of conduct for the staff to follow. Now, earlier I said, internal bleeding, to prevent internal bleeding, one of the effective ways to do it is set up a code of conduct so that you can set up a norm within your company so that the staff know what should do if they come across this sort of conflicting situation. That is what I would suggest. Now finally, perhaps may I use this, I propose a model for you. Ethics plus Ethics E, you establish the relevant facts, and then you take stock of all the stakeholders or parties involved. H, have an objective assessment on each stakeholder's position. I, identify viable alternatives and effects. C, compare and evaluate the likely consequences. And then S, select the most appropriate course of action. P, professional and trade-related code of conduct as a basis for you to follow. L, that is what the legal requirement. U, uncompromising self-value, for example, honesty, fairness, and trustworthiness. Finally, S, sunshine test, whether the issue can be discussed and decision can be disclosed without misgiving. So these are the decision-making model for you for reference if you come across an ethical dilemma. So that's perhaps to end up, I would say that both business ethics and professional ethics will play a very important role, in particular, to fight against malpractices within your own organization. Now, if you are a professional, set up a good example so that others can follow. If you are a business manager, try to put more investment on training your staff. This is a very, very good investment. So finally, as I appeal to you, when you come across to be or not to be situations, think about this ethical model of decision making, the Ethic Plus model. So once again, I would say, try to consider the moral space here. This moral space, try to extend it to a high level. It depends on which way you look at it. The higher you go, the better you will become. Thank you.
Next management game competition. I understand that there will be an award towards the end, whoever wins out from this management game competition. So we would like to have Sony to tell us what the rules are and how to actually enter the competition. Sony.
Any one of you looked at the three cases? Okay. The one is about what they call agent's morality. It's basically talking about an employee's loyalty to his employer, but then engages in unethical practices to foster the profitability of the company. The second one is, I haven't read this one, it's about, I think 2 or 3 are both about legal issues, about legal dilemma. The students team
We'll stay
stay
here.
here. Yeah. The group leaders, could you bring the groups back here at 10:55? 10:55.
考慮到公眾對一間公司嗰個嘅期望。
Are we all ready? Can we invite group 1 presenter? One is going to tip 1. Should the lawyer take the case to help the poor family? This is the question. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Noelle, and I am here to present our thinking on this. So obviously this is a very unfortunate case, and it's, there's one correct ethical answer, but there are obviously a lot of professional and kind of technical barriers to us just taking on the case. So one obvious thing that we're not allowed to do is take it on a contingency basis. So we have to stay within the guidelines of our professional, our professional guidelines. So we kind of put our brains together and try to think of a practical way to get around this and try and do the right thing. So we came up with some solutions, and obviously we should try and help to the extent that we can. So the first step might be to ask, firstly, your firm if they allow you to take it on a pro bono basis, because some firms actually welcome pro bono work because it's good for their own image as well, but they have the resources too, especially the bigger firms. But if your firm is really too small and they can't afford to take it on a pro bono basis, then some of the things that you can do is you can try to charge them, but on a big discount. So you can legally take it on, but then charge them the invoice, but then say give it at 90% discount. And as for the upfront disbursements, like the medical reports and things like that, I mean, we think that Mrs. Wong's family probably has enough out of that 1.5 million fund to pay for some small disbursements upfront, so that takes care of the practical problems. Next would be to try to take some initial steps to scare the other party. So you might issue a writ first, and then put pressure on them. You might refer Mrs. Wong to go to the public media like Apple Daily or something to try and publicize the matter, and that might put some pressure on the other side in reaching a settlement before you have to incur any significant legal costs. So maybe you would set a guideline for yourself if you come up to the point where just before you have to instruct counsel, then you would have to refer it to someone else. But you can always take some initial steps like issuing a writ and things. The next one would be you might convince your partner to take on the client, open the file, and do all the practical procedures. And you're not doing this on a contingency basis. You're issuing them the bills, but you're not chasing them for the bills yet. This is one practical solution that we came up with, because whether your firm chases for bills or redo bills is your own internal policy. So it might be that you would issue the bill and then not chase it up until 12 months, 18 months later when things become more financially stable for Mrs. Wong's family. But if all of this is not allowed, I mean, you really can't open up the case in your firm, and there's nothing you can do, then as you're a lawyer by training, you can offer some advice on a friendly basis, but you wouldn't do anything kind of official, like issuing anything, because you're not allowed to by your firm. But as you're a lawyer, but also on a friendly basis as well, you would offer some initial advice, such as, in these sort of cases, what can you expect? What are the procedural steps, so that they're more prepared, so that if they in the end decide to take some of the fund out and instruct some lawyers, then at least they would have some idea about what they're doing. And yeah, last comes last, if you're not able to take on the case yourself, your firm doesn't allow you to take on the case, but you have some, you know who to refer it to, that would have the resources and the resources to help out Mrs. Wong's family, then obviously you would refer it to another law firm. So that's the conclusion of our group.
Thank you, Ma'am. Just to recap in Chinese for the students here around, a couple of jargon, quite difficult to understand. 其實頭先第一組嘅朋友咧，其實就係講話係一個好困難嘅情況，點樣幫一個冇錢打官司但係又要打官司嘅人啦嚇，作為一個律師。咁我諗頭先大家都聽到，即係有好多唔同嘅方法，譬如話幫佢做個 case， 但係免費，咁我哋英文叫 pro bono 啊，所以頭先有個字 pro bono， 其實就係解免費作為律師幫佢做啦，或者係幫佢做，但係收嗰個法律費用係俾一個好大嘅折讓佢啦，或者係用佢啲叫技術性擊倒對方，譬如去蘋果日報嗰度咧大肆宣傳啦，因為嗰個希望得到一個庭外和解就唔使打官司等等啦。咁呢啲就係即係好簡單咁講一講俾即係中學生嘅同學聽頭先 team 第一隊嘅情況。Let's now move to team 2. Is it the same case or different?
No, this is a different case.
Okay, maybe you.
This is the case is about the agent's morality.
Oh, I see.
what I was saying, that you are loyal to your employer, and so you try to commit some immoral acts for the good of the firm. Actually, we drifted a lot. I think the one thing that the two things that came up. One is the Antonio's sunshine rule. In other words, if you can tell the public all that you are doing, and nobody is going to say that you are wrong, and it's probably right. And what is the other? Oh, the other one is. Oh, would you like to put that? Yeah.
Sorry, I think our case is an agency rule that whether you respect to the employer and how should you do. For example, you find out your employee is doing something wrong. Let's say the bad food in China. So what should you do? But I think what we come up is, also for the student is, I think in my cases, there's no black and white. Black and white. In the student, maybe they think it's so black and white. If this, I would say, if you ask people all here or even in the street, if you do wrong things, will you do it? Everybody will say no. But I think in the real world, it's like this: black, white, gray. Everything between is gray. So what we can is always the reality is gray case. Whether it's okay, you add a bit of this flavour or sugar, whether you'll be hurt. If you think it's hurt, are you 100% sure? I just think this is what we're wrong. I think that is what we need to decide by ourselves. Because I think if you're sure it is wrong, what should you do? Like either quit, you find another job. But are you sure? Are you sure you, for this real case, and you just go quit another job? But the thing is, are you 100% sure what if you're wrong? So I think that is a very hard to make decision, because I think if you go for theoretical, it's black or white. Okay, I add this is poison to people. I think nobody will do it. Because we come up from a example. Because myself is an accountant and a banker. So let's say for all we heard from the Lehman bond, I think all the salespeople think at the beginning it's good. Okay, we pay 1% at the bank, but we take 7% on the bond. So everybody knows it should be good, good for investment, good for you, but at the end of the day, it's wrong. But I would believe a lot of these salesperson don't understand the product, and they really think it's good. So I think in the real world, it's very hard for us to decide what a great case will be, and for that's why we come up with from our team member is education. Education that we sometimes put the seat on you, and you go out to the real world and you learn, and of course, at the beginning you think you get all the money and you will be happy, you can buy the thing you want and whatnot. But at some time in your future, you will think, should I do this? Do I make me happy? This is really from my heart? Did I just go for money? So I think it's really a learning experience. I'm still learning. I cannot tell you what is right or wrong and how you can step your standard. But we just hope to put in some of this integrity, honesty, trustworthy into you, and hope you just learn from your real life experience.
The other thing that this gentleman here talked about was that is your gain at the expense of somebody's loss. That is also an acid test. If somebody loses and then you gain, that is probably wrong. And he talked about the common good. In other words, everybody gains. Hopefully everybody gains. If you earn the money, but in our profession, we say that either you earn or you cheat. Okay, if the money is earned, then it's good. If the money is by cheat, then it's no good. Cheating is at the expense of somebody else. So thank you.
Now we go to the third team. Obviously a different case. We've got directors, disclosure and stuff like that. So.
I'm a very reluctant reporter. but I didn't get out of the room fast enough. This is the conflict of interest case, which is it's one on the back here. One company he's attempting to sell his company to apparently a company listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange, or a manufacturing company, and the consultant to the buyer wanted to, they would not make the deal unless the seller can show that the company has a profit margin of 10% increase in its business. Okay? And in order to reach that target, the seller then talks to two of his directors and offers them a substantial bonus if they meet that target, and therefore the sale can go through. However, the two directors decide to take every possible way to boost the sale, including accepting substandard materials and offering entertainment and commission to buyers, or what might be known here as back kick or kickback, apparently. And it is stated specifically that the owner, the seller, does not know what his directors have been doing. Okay? Then there's a further complication regarding the consultant who's trying to apparently broker this deal, who'd been advising the buyer, that it turns out that this consultant is also on the board of the seller, and that this relationship itself was not disclosed. So in our discussion of the case, we saw two clusters of problems. One thing, though, is that I think it would be useful to know that what we did not think was a problem. We did not think it's a problem to offer a bonus or an incentive for higher performance that would allow your business plan to succeed. So the fact that a bonus was offered in and of itself is not a problem. The problem is in how the directors chose to go for that bonus. You made the distinction between cheating and earning. And apparently it was our interpretation that they were into cheating in order to achieve the bonus, and therefore that created all kinds of problems. One of the things we discussed was this, and that is, what happens when the seller, we presume to be an upright person, when he finds out that his directors have been cheating in this way? Some of our questions were, what action should he take? Since there are illegal areas here, should the police or the other agencies that monitor these things be informed? Our group tended to think yes, that he has a duty to inform the appropriate regulatory agencies about what he has discovered. Secondly, it was suggested that he either force retirement or otherwise remove these two directors who acted without authorization in trying to achieve the bonus. And so the actions seem to be severe in this case. In the case of the consultant, who is a member, who again was operating without the seller's knowledge, acting as an agent or as a consultant to the buyer, we believe that she had a duty to inform the buyer of her business relationship with the seller, so that at least these things would have been transparent at the beginning. Since they are not, once the seller finds out about it, there is the question of what further could he do, to sanction, this one of his directors who has taken on that project. We too had some, at the end, there are a lot of issues to be discussed here, but I love the fact that you were talking about the sunshine test from Professor Chu, because we used that as well. And that is, we worked through the consequences. What would happen if substandard materials were used in his product in order to make the profit level that he was hoping for? And we used the sunshine test to think about what would happen if the buyer found out about what had been done short-term to boost profits. You know, would the buyer be okay with that? Well, overwhelming common sense, we think, would say absolutely not. It might even destroy the entire sale once he finds out that there is now a product line out there that is substandard, that is going to create additional headaches for the buyer once those products are sold to customers in China or elsewhere. You know, I think that pretty much is it. We assumed that both the seller and buyer were legitimate businessmen trying to do well while doing good. And that in this case, particularly the seller's directors, that is his employees, were cheating. There are certain other actions in retrospect that you could take to try to develop a corporate code of conduct or whatever to make it clear to people that if we give you an incentive for a bonus, that doesn't mean that all's fair and that you can cheat to whatever extent, that we don't care how you make our goal, just make the goal. Okay. So it was a great conversation we had together. Thank you very much.
That's a very interesting case study. Now we move to the two groups from the same school. We have the junior group and the senior group. Maybe we should get the junior group out to present to us on their observations. Maybe you tell us which school you're from and your name, please.
We are from a school from Chenyi. It's a Donghua group of hospitals at SC Gong Memorial College. And today we're going to discuss a case about there were two kids in the classroom. One is the rich kid and another is the poor kid. And the rich kid is always took out $500 or $100 note out, maybe tempt people or anything. Another kid was a poor kid, which one day his mother was really sick and needed treatment, which was really expensive. So this poor kid decided to steal money from the rich kid. The question is, what would I do? What if I were the poor kid, and what would I have done? As we discussed, we think the poor kid, first of all, we shouldn't steal money from the rich kid. There's many consequences brought about. Firstly, stealing money is illegal, and on the other hand, you might get prosecuted, and you can look after his mother, the poor kid. And what we see about the poor kid, the action is not from the greediness, and then he's not take action because of his greedy, but he's caring for his mother. We think it is right about the kid, but it's wrong because he's stealing. What we take suggestions, we have four suggestions. One of them is ask the rich kid for the money. He might deny. So this is a bad point. He might take interest on it. And another point is to find the social workers for the help. The social workers all might have experience with this case. They might know the ways to get money, to get help, the best way for the poor kid. And the third point is, of course, take the mother to hospital first. What might happen to her next? Maybe she'll pass out in the home. Yeah. And finally, if the poor kid has relatives, you might find relatives because they might agree to help the poor kid pricelessly. And I think they're pretty our conclusions. Thank you.
I think there are always solutions to problems. So that's very good sharing from the junior team. Now that we would like to invite the last team, which is the senior team from the same school.
Good morning, everybody. We are the senior team, also from my group of hospitals, HKIIEL Memorial College. For my cases, there are 3 stakeholders: the principal and 2 students, who are the Richard and Paul. Richard come from rich family, and Paul come from poor family. Yeah. For these cases, yeah. One day, Paul and Richard gave some money to maybe 40,000 and to Paul to buy something, but Paul just only use 10,000 for the thing for buying some things, and 30,000 we don't know where he to try to use it, or maybe he steal or something like that. Yeah. Also, when Richard know that and try to tell to the principal, and the principal only say something to Paul and tell him Paul can't give back the money to Richard. So first the principal tried to ignore the whole cases. Yeah, and maybe we will give to the other members to introduce the cases and some solutions or problems.
So we have concluded 3 points for this case, and the first point is about Paul. Paul is poor, so poverty is not a license to break the law of the rules of the ethics. So even though Paul is poor, it doesn't mean he can steal money, and it doesn't mean he has a license for stealing or anything. And the second point is the principal should provide guidelines on how to punish Paul, at least help Paul understand the result of his mistake. And at this point, principal did not punish Paul, and it does not deliver the message that Paul is making a mistake. And principal should provide a clear guideline on how to punish Paul, at least to show that the principal is knowing this case. And then the third point is to understand where Paul is, the purpose of Paul's, to understand where Paul is spending the money, the purpose of money, of using money. So the third point means to the case, I think to understand where is Paul using money, because that maybe Paul needs needed urgent, maybe his parent, maybe his relatives have some trouble, or then he might need urgent money to save them, to do something, and that's the 3 points.
Thank you. I just want to point out first to the fact that Professor McCann, we have seen, is really a specialist on business ethics. He taught business ethics for 40 years, and we made a huge effort since 3 years to work on case studies. So I feel very kind of privileged to have Professor McCann among us. And I think it's good you pointed out to the fact there are gray areas. And I think the first step is, and I think you made a great effort, to what is really the problem, or in the group of your group, what is not the problem. It's not a problem to offer a bonus cake, for instance. Say. So really, I found also living in China, it is the first challenge, what is the true story? See, so Rashomon is this famous movie. We have so many you wonder at the end what's really going on. So it's already, I think you made a remarkable effort. And then, instead of just thinking, now I'm helpless, I have confused, or everything is grey, I think there are some guidelines, for instance, to ask what are the fiduciary duty, for instance, to inform the buyer, or the trust put into you as an accountant, and how I honor the trust. And this is related then if I don't honor the trust, this has very harmful consequences to the larger public. So it's also we take into account the harm. I think the second senior group courageously pointed out, yes, what is the duty of the principal, you see, and how to inform properly. I think that was also very well raised. And then also another way to analyze is to look to the consequences, also like what Dennis pointed out, what would be the disastrous consequences of having defective products. So that's called the utilitarian method. So that's, I think, hopefully we can further advance to apply these. The first one is the duty-based method. What are the fiduciary duties we absolutely have to honor? And the other is the utilitarian method. And also living in China, I would also point out already to reach the legal level is already an achievement. See, don't underplay this achievement. That's already a huge achievement. So just a few words. So.
Thank you, Father. Just to give a flavour of, or in Chinese, 頭先羅神父講嘅咧，我諗亦都頭先同學都聽到點解我突然間笑咧，因為Father 其實咧就係過往嗰is it 20 years in China， 佢嗰20年咧係差唔多係喺中國內地咧係教書同埋係推廣呢個我哋business ethics 嘅，咁亦都係頭先講啦，係一個好重要嘅一個著作嘅作者。咁但係佢講咧，其實喺business ethics 呢個範圍裏邊咧，內地咧仲有一個好長嘅道路，因為咧淨係要去。即係頭先我哋突然間笑就因為要去守法律本身咧，能夠守到已經係最低限度做到嘅咧，都要有一段路都未到嘅。咁所以頭先因為Tony都話啦，其實喺法律之上都仲有好多個道德個空間咧，嗰個亦都係一個好長遠嘅一個目標。咁所以大家會睇到咧，其實有好多工作咧，仲係要去做同埋培訓嘅。咁嗱，咁而家時間冇多啦，咁大家可以咧就take一個10分鐘嘅 break 啦。咁10分鐘後咧，大家翻呢間房咧，咁我哋仲會有下一節嘅 input 同埋有啲 workshop 做㗎。咁 now we break up for coffee break for 10 minutes and please do come back on time. I would like to invite Dr. Pan to come forth and say a few words on behalf of the panel of judges, and then we'll go to have the awards presented. So Dr. Pan.
Thank you, Alice. I must say that this is an extremely difficult task, and in fact, you can see that the panel has been extremely hardworking over 5 years, led by Father Deignan, to analyze each case and come to a hard decision as to if you are forced to pick one of those that we have to do so. But we found actually this is very difficult. So the panel, in fact, decided that although we only have one that we are going to have a little award, but the other two we should give it an honorable mention to acknowledge all the great things that they have achieved. And also the students too, the students have performed marvelously. So for this first group, we have learned a lot from them, particularly all the very bright solutions at a technical level, all the variety of ways that the problems can be technically solved. So congratulations to the first group, which has done a very good job. And the second group is also very interesting. You can see that instead of black and white, they advocate this idea of the grey, and the grey is even bigger than the black and white. and I think that the good, very impressive point is they are working at a very philosophical level. So not only looking at what should be done, but also conceptualizing some fundamental philosophies in guiding their practice. And in the end, they're very good in saying that education is fundamentally most important, and we all fully agree to that. So we educators in the field must work extremely hard. And the third group, but the third group has a very clear analysis of the cases, very structured, very organized. So we know the background very clearly. And also the group advocated supporting the sunshine test, which is a very good strategy for doing that. And have given a very good analysis of the possibilities that has been very convincing in all the presentations.
So in the end of the three, if we are forced to make a decision, although it's very hard, then the group tend to, as Father has led us to have the discussion, recommend the third group be given the prize. But the first and students will be given the honor gold as well. And then for the students groups, I'm sure you know the performance are extremely impressive. And I think we should be proud of our students here. They speak so well in English. And in front of all the experts in here, so let's look at the So there are two cases. In fact, we find the first group was very detailed in analyzing all the possible solutions. And the second dual approach by the two students are very impressive as well, and then they showed the team efforts, which have done a great presentation. So congratulations to both. And I think one of them will, both of them will be given something. And I think the first one will be given, the junior team will be given a slightly bigger book. And the other team will be given a slightly smaller book, but a jam book, which is very important as well. So over to you back, Alice. But let's offer a big clap to the led by
just to have a quick presentation of the awards, maybe we should invite Father Deignan and to present to the adult sections winner, the group 3. So can we have the group 3 come forward, please?
Ready? Thank you.
And for the secondary school team, we would like to have Father Rothlin to present to the junior team first.
Very good job.
Thank you, and we would like to invite Dr. Pan to come forward to present to the senior team of the secondary school group. For the next session, we would like to invite Ms. Karen Lee, lawyer by profession, to come forth and give us some input on the next brainstorming and group discussion section.
So what we are going to do here is we'll split into group, and then by our own profession, we have to, after discussing the case and also hearing a very inspirational talk from Antonio, we may have some insight or we may think by profession what we will meet on a daily basis, some battle between angel and evil that we fight for. Maybe you don't think about it in the past, but after, we hope that what we have learned today, this morning, you will think what you have done. Say, for example, for a start of our discussion, what you have done in the past week, that you are fighting with your boss on some ethical issues, maybe, with your client, or have you been instructed to do something that is in a borderline cases that may fight, there is ethical issues. So now we are going to split into teams again, and then we will have, we will discuss what you have come across maybe in the past week.
Before we move to case sharing group reports, we would like to invite the partner of ONC lawyers, Mr. Sherman Yan, to come and talk about the power of integrity and organizational core values.
If I may put it in simple terms, what we do is we advise clients to do things in such a way in compliance with the law, or in such a way not to violate the law. Now, it sounds like it's something quite simple. Actually, it's not that simple. Because whenever we try to comply with the law, there is always a cost element in it. When I say cost, what I mean is it's not limited to monetary expenses. It also includes notions like behavioral constraint, extra effort, or restriction on freedom. So it's not that easy. And if I may just give you some examples. Say, for example, you are not supposed to drink driving. So after you have a few rounds of drink, you shouldn't drive. Okay? So it's a kind of behavioral constraint. The law prohibits you from stealing. It's another form of behavioral constraint. And if you are a driver, and if you drive, you've got to be driving very carefully, because if you don't drive carefully, and if you're careless, and because of your, say, negligent driving, you cause injury to other road users, you will be held liable, and you could be sued, and you may be ordered by the court to pay compensation to the victims. So that is the kind of behavioral constraint as well as a restriction on freedom. So in other words, our job, I put it this way, to comply with the law, I would say, somehow it goes against human nature. Now, not all of you may agree, but from my experience, I think there is some truth in it. Because if you want to do that, to do things in a legal way, that implies you have to restrain your behavior, constrain your behavior, you have to pay extra effort, and you have to, as human nature, you would like to enjoy more freedom. But law restricts your freedom somehow. Okay? If I may give you one more example, you want to say you want to run a restaurant business, you have to apply for various licenses. And without all these licenses, you will not be allowed to operate this restaurant business. So that means extra effort. So in other words, our job is not that simple and easy. We are telling you to do things in such a way that will restrict your freedom, which goes against your human nature in a way. Now, and what makes it even more difficult is, as lawyers, we are also commercial animals. We need to make money to survive. Now, if I advise you something, and if unfortunately the advice goes against your wishes, or which is contrary to your interest, or which is not in line with your line of thinking, then as clients, what would you do? You may go away. Then I will lose business. Then I will have commercial pressure. Then what I should do? Then maybe I will be under pressure to say things that I believe you would like to hear. So that is our situation. We are constantly in a situation of conflict. And that's why we have decided integrity is so important. Because if we ourselves are not law-abiding people, how can we possibly convince our clients to be law-abiding? It's not at all easy. And when we have adopted this value, then we believe it would guide us, as well as our lawyers. It would give us some, what I would say, fundamental guidelines for us to resolve our problems. Now, but to do that, it's not just, again, it's not that simple. It's more than telling people what to do or what not to do. We must have in place a system. Now, just now I mentioned to you, as commercial animals, we are also under commercial pressure. And there may be chances, there may be situations where we might compromise our integrity. So in order to ensure that we tell our lawyers, now we've got to be honest, you don't compromise yourself, you've got to say to clients what you believe to be your honest opinion. But we must have a good system to support that. And in order to do that, we take away what we believe to be the most important incentive for lawyers to please clients. Now, if you understand this industry, you might know, especially in the case of domestic law firms, quite a big portion of a lawyer's income is dependent upon the volume of business he introduces to the firm. In some cases, now this source of income is paid in the form of commission. In some cases, as far as I know, the commission rate could be as high as 50% of the volume of business introduced. So imagine, now, it's big money, but the other side of the coin is also, it operates as some kind of pressure on the law. We also pay commission to our lawyers, but the commission rate we pay is very low. I think it's one of the lowest in Hong Kong. But that doesn't mean our lawyers are not well paid. They are very well paid. They are paid a fixed income. Now, we don't give them pressure on bringing in business. In fact, all our junior partners, when they got promoted, business capability is not even one of the considerations. In fact, many of our, I would say, all of our junior partners, when we promote them, we do not consider how much business they have brought into the firm. We only looked at their capability, experience, and skills. I want to ensure that they are not under pressure to bring in business. Now that is very important. Now you might ask, then where does the business come from? Well, we are quite lucky. We are quite okay, right? So anyway, we don't need to give them this kind of pressure, and we don't make it as a criteria when we consider promotion. So with this system, I believe they are under less commercial pressure to deviate from our core values. Integrity. We are still a relatively young firm. This is what we have been doing for the past few years. I cannot say we are very successful, but this is the direction we are heading to. With this value, which every one of us agree, at least we know whenever we come across problems, we know there is a bottom line we cannot go beyond. And we know all of us will be heading in the same direction because we know this is something we should adhere to, irrespective of the solutions we may come up with. We must keep this. We must ensure that we are upholding this value of integrity and optimism. And that is my first experience.
So we just, after what we have learned this morning, is the kind of, we have a breakout session to see what new insight we have and what we can bring home today after the discussion. So now we will bring into teams again who will present what they have learned so far, the insight they have after hearing this morning session. So may I ask team 1 representative first?
Hi, my name is Henry. It's going to be a difficult presentation to me because Mr. Yan has just given a very excellent presentation which covers most of our discussions. So actually team 1 is a legal team, so yeah, it's a legal team. But most of us are juniors, so actually it's probably very difficult for us to give a very accurate presentation of this because I'm not in the position that if I get a client away, I won't lose my money because I still get my fixed monthly pay. But for the key dilemma, of course, we can, as a junior, we can foresee that eventually, if we become a senior one day, or even if we become a boss one day, then there's always a contradicting situation between your business and your professional integrity and compliance with the professional code of conduct as a lawyer. So in this case, personally, I believe this ultimately goes to your personal own value as how you treasure money and e-career, because how much you're going to sacrifice for your career and your own money instead of contribution to society, upholding integrity and justice, something like that. But and before I'm old enough to say that kind of things, we personally believe that as a junior, if we face these kind of problems in our own firm, say if your boss comes to my room and asks me, okay, Henry, do some research and write a advice. And during the duration of my research and advice, I know, okay, this client is asking our firm to provide an advice on how to get around some illegal stuff. Then you personally know this is wrong, this is illegal, and it is against the professional code of conduct. So what are we going to do? Of course, if we have a very understanding boss, I can go to my boss and say, boss, I don't think this is right. Can we do something else? And if the answer is no, you have to do that. This client is very rich and it's the bread and butter of our firm. Then obviously the problem should be. Then in that case, then we have to do something to protect ourselves. Say, Noelle just said she's going to put up a lot of memo and send some internal emails saying that, okay, boss, I think this is wrong. This is not right. Okay, I'm sort of like protecting my own interest in just to prevent a case in some days I would unexpectedly get prosecuted. Then obviously that's the last thing as a lawyer you want to see, because if you lose your license, then you I don't know what else I can do. And in that case, well, at the same time, I think as a junior, then we have to, of course, if the firm like ONC has very good guidelines in respect of integrity, then that would be very fortunate for a junior. But in some local firms, or if your firm relies on you bringing in new clients, then obviously then you will have to develop your own personal value framework. Then that would be, you have to consider what you have to do, what you have to do, and how are you going to deal with these situations. Ultimately, you can choose to resign, but this would always be a very tough decision for anyone, especially if you're facing the risk of your own career. But I don't think anyone has a good answer to it. But yeah, I think this is a endless question that as a junior, as a senior, any professional in the legal field, you will have to think about it every day. So sorry for not being able to give an accurate answer, but I think that concludes our presentation.
Thank you. I think you present very well. It doesn't look like a junior, so thank you. So now we have team 2 for presentation.
I'll try to be very, very quick. Group 2, we discussed a lot of things. It's rather nebulous. We didn't really concentrate on anything, but some of us are surveyors, some of us are architects, and I talked about an environmental firm, and some of us are investment bankers, and we all faced moral and ethical dilemmas in all these areas. And actually, I don't think we have any kind of conclusion, but I think the consensus was probably is really within yourself, whether you think it's right, whether you think it's wrong. If you think it's wrong and you can't do it, then it's time to stop. I mean, to stop doing it one way or the other. Okay, either by resigning or refusing to do it. I won't go into the details of what was discussed because there was no time. But this is the gist of the matter. I personally think that this moral dilemma issue probably is present in every profession, every vocation. Okay, even if you're a cobbler or a carpenter or whatever, there's always some problem. Because, for example, if you're a cobbler, I can give you a cheap shoelaces, and then it breaks the leg the next day. But when I sold it to you, it's still okay. So it's all within you.
Okay, so I think we have team 3 now.
Hello, I'm Alice. I have a legal background training and specializing in human rights and international law, and I'm assisting Dr. Rothlin in his mission at the moment in Beijing. We had a very interesting case presented by Gabriel. He's an environmental consultant, and we were talking about the dilemma of engineering test results. What is the problem? Like, but the client wants a result, and he can test it 100 times. 10 times it fails, but the 100th time it is positive. So how does an auditor deal with this problem, with this moral dilemma? Does he say after 10 times, no, 10 times it's failed, I don't want to do it the 11th time? So it was a really interesting discussion. And it's the same with the old car, and you want to have an emission certificate. If you go to one part, they say yes, like they say no, so you just go to the 10th one and it says yes. So what do you do? And it's as well a gray area, and the auditor has to play the rule of the game, so he has restriction and there are minimum standards for them. So what our solutions were that the government might force like statistical tests, that he says out of this 100 there has to be a statistical number to be taken, not just the best one, like a percentage out of it. Because there are outside influences which we can't control. Then pressure clients to report. They can't avoid about repairing the mistakes they did, so either there were really mistakes there or not. So kind of talk to the clients about their own moral issues, like the group number 2 just said. And limit the number of tests, but it has to be regulated by the government. And be a model courage to stand up, like that. So, is there anything else to add? Okay, I hope that's concluded what we talked about. Yeah.
Students as well, so should we start with the junior team?
After discussing in our team, we decided to present my own story. Once during the school's women gala, I discovered my friend broke the school rules. He was playing his mobile phone on the stage, and at that time I felt very difficult because as a prefect, I have to point him out to the teachers or the school. But as a friend, I don't want to point him out, and I don't want to lose these friends. But if I don't point him out, it will affect the image of our prefect team. And at last, after a lot of thinking, I point him out, and fortunately, he understood that I have to point him out, and so we are still friends. Thank you.
Very good. I must say I'm very impressed this morning about the performance of the students. It's very different from my time. Very smart and present themselves very well, carry themselves very well. So now may we have the senior team representative, please?
Hello everyone, we are the senior teams, and today we are going to talk about the prefect's difficulties of the mobile phone problems. Yes, it's the same. As the policy of our schools is the students should handle their mobile phones in the morning, and some students who is naughty and didn't handle in their mobile phones, and they played in the recess times or during the lessons, and this problem I would like my members to talk about with you.
Our prefect's duty is to make students obey the school rules, and we have to be on patrol in the recess. So even on the same phone, we have to point those who disobey the school rules. I have one of my personal experience too. When I'm on lesson, I saw all my class, almost all of them take all their mobile phones and play. I don't know how to react to this. Maybe I have to point them out, but it's really difficult when it's your classmate, it's your friend. So you have a relationship with them, and it's really difficult to point them out because it will ruin my personal image, not just the prefect team. Also, at the end, I will point them out because it's my job. Yes, I understand my job and I have to do it. I'm in the job, I'm an employee, so I have to, yeah. So I'm saying in the future. So, yeah. So we have to treat all the students equally. No one enjoys the special rights. So that's how we face problems.
So we'll start with the plenary analysis by Father Rothlin and other speakers, and then we'll have the summing up by Antonio.
We really had great thanks for these great presentations. And it's true what your group pointed out. You have this voice of conscience within you. You know what you should do. But I think what we might share now is how we can develop professional ethics. I personally learned a lot in Taiwan, where you had also a number of scandals, and where we need a bit to support each other, also in order to protect the profession. Since I think today you cannot hide anything, be just the case of a mobile phone, we know everything. And I think a healthy pressure comes from the media. Everything, you cannot hide anything anymore. And I think what also came out very strongly, just inculcate the law is not enough. You might also really win over your friend. Why, for instance, should you hand over your mobile phone? So what I think is required, and I feel much push in the mainland, to have professional ethics developed. So that whatever the legal profession, accounting, I would first always say the accounting profession as first. But what is ethics all about? I start always with you, is to urge for transparency. And not only the legal side, I think that we feel uncomfortable, but also make the case of values, why it is actually better that you stand at the red light. I'm sometimes the only one standing before a red light, and I think just to inculcate the law is not enough, and why it is better to respect the law. I think that should be the goal when we talk about professional ethics, and I think that's much needed. And I think from these consumer movements, there came also much pressure to require the different professions to stick to their fiduciary duties. Again, we talked in the break about the key issue of the last conference 10 years ago, really to earn the trust of people who trust you as an accountant, as a banker. So in order to enhance, we need this, I think, very strongly guidance, not just from a personal conscience, but how are the rules for certain professions. So I think that's the road ahead. I hope also we have Chris, since we have this a very brilliant, Chris disappeared, and just also what he is extremely busy, but whenever you have a chance, he did a lot of work in the area of values, how to shape the values that you could embrace the law. There's not just I have to obey the law, but why there is to shape a value system so that you voluntarily follow the law.
May we invite Antonio to give us the summing up and also the closing remarks for today's course. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now talking this morning about to be or not to be. That is the question. We always come across this sort of dynamic situations. But with a high ethical standard in both professional and business, I suppose you all know the way if you come across this dynamic situation, you know what to do. The high ethical standard is set. The ESA, you can make a reasonable ethical decisions. Because very often we come across this sort of situation, what we call, it is something, it's not illegal. but unethical. So what would you do then? Now, I hope today what you have, I don't think ethics can be taught. It can only be caught. So when you catch something, then when you go back home, and then you can know, when you come across situation, you know how to deal with it. Now, I want to stress that the businessman here, I don't know how many of you, irrespective of whether you are now a professional, but one day you will move up to a managerial position. You become a manager or something like that. Even though you are a lawyer, a doctor or something, you would take up a high post. You become a manager then. Now, at that point in time, you can set up a high ethical standard within your organization. Normally, I think the people at the top will have a lot of influence over the people in the organizations. That is what we call the organization culture. You set up a very high ethical culture within the organization. Now that will be a very effective weapon against malpractices within your organization. Now remember just now I said, very often business people spend a lot of money to prevent thieves outside. Very often trouble comes from within. There are the thief from within. If you set a high ethical standard in both your professions and business, you are in fact doing a wonderful thing to prevent your organization from internal bleeding. So that is what I'm asking you. Once again, thank you for what you are here to learn, and I hope you have an enjoyed morning. And then you can, as I say, I'm not going to teach you, people here, I'm not going to teach you anything, but I hope you can catch something back. Thank you.